know they show us up a lot of time with their passion for Australia, for being a patriot, for Jesus, and for community and children and grandchildren. They're just such an encouragement to all of us. So John's got the bit between his teeth here to say, and I think he's fought the council up here, a few of you know, but I remember him saying, well, who's going to do this? If someone's got to do something to fight these councils, these rogue woke councils. And he said, well, if no one else will do it, well, I'll do it. So a few of you know John and Edna have been fighting a battle and, yeah, making a real impact. So all of a sudden, yeah. So good on you guys. And now we've got this rally proceeding, talking about a big national farmers rally, I think, but I'll let John talk more about that. And with that, without further ado, hand you over, John.
Well, thanks again for pumping my tyres up, but Edna's doesn't need pumping up. She's right up there. Hey, is this on?
Yep, a bit closer.
Oh, okay.
Make sure you get in.
Hello. Oh, that's better. Hello. Hello. I'm going to build up, and I believe, and I told them to come in and eat it in the hall. Are you the last one? Oh, one more. Okay, we'll wait for one more. You should always look for the lost sheep. Is that right, Farmer Wade? Okay, so we'll wait. Here's a straggler coming through the door. Is one more to come? One. Can you get the whip?
I'll blow the shofar again. Last call, too.
There's still one out there, Faye?
I'm going to check.
Yeah. There's someone getting a hamburger.
Go for it, mate.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I've written a few things down, but I could go off stream, but I thought I need to make a few notes about it. And I believe that this is an event which we haven't told people is going to be live streamed and also broadcast on many, many platforms in Victoria through Farmer Wade, Mark Nugent-Bar, Dr. Graham Lyons, and who else? Tim Dwyer, and there may be other platforms out there. So it's not just a crowd of about 60 in the room that's going to hear this. There's going to be thousands of people across the southern part of Australia. I don't know if it goes north of that way, does it? Even further north? Well, there you go. First and foremost, thank you all for coming. And our co-hosts of Edna and mine are Kim, and where's Faye? Over there. She's outside. And also Ron on the guitar. Between all of us, we've been able to put this event on. So again, we really thank you for coming, because we have to. We have a great number of speakers today, and as I say, one of the keynote speakers is Farmer Wade from Billboard Battalion. He has come with his crew. Belinda, where are you? Hello, there, that lovely lady there, and that good-looking bloke, Nick, he's there. He's also part of the Billboard Battalion. 3 people are doing an unbelievable, powerful job throughout Australia, and it's interesting that I hadn't connected with Farmer Wade until about less than 2 months ago, because my heart is for the farmers, And when you hear his testimony, you'll be amazed what he's doing in Australia. So we've heard about the 3 wise men coming to the east at Christmas time. Well, we got 3 wise people coming from the east, which is these 3. In a short moment, I'll ask you to stand with hand on heart, if you wish, to heartily sing our national anthem. Prior to that, I just want to read out the opening statement to be followed by a very short prayer. And this is what I need to say. Our sovereign nation, Australia, needs to revert back to and to abide by the laws, powers and functions written within the Commonwealth of Australia's 1901 Constitution, humbly relying on the blessing of Almighty God. So, Lord, we pray, Almighty God, for your blessing upon our sovereign nation, Australia, as we come together in unity, fighting for our sovereign rights and freedoms. We pray that you will raise up godly and righteous men and women who will stand up, speak up, and act in the public square, in the judiciary, in our federal and state governments, in our health departments, in our councils, and all other positions of authority and service. And finally, we pray your blessing upon all of the speakers today. Hallelujah and amen.
Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand. Hand on heart, hat, and we stand for our national anthem. Thank you.
Are you waiting? Okay.
How about we sing out the Pala, John?
Please go ahead.
I got it. It's all right. Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are young and free, with golden soil and wealth fertile. Our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Okay, I just want to make this announcement now while we're quiet and understanding how this event came about. And what I'm appealing to everyone is to make a donation for the Farmer Wade crew. They've come all the way from Victoria. And if you really talk to them, they're not funded by too much at all, and they fight like hell. Actually, my dad used to say on the seat of their bum, but I think we need to support them. So people who can give generously, there's a box down there to do so. Yeah. On the flip side of the coin, if you've only got 1 or 2 bob to throw in, that's fine, because I just want to encourage you to give generously if you can. Now, to give a bit of an idea of the program today, got to put the glasses on again. Now, there's 2 powerful women in the room who I'm going to introduce, and I'm not going to talk about what they're about. No, just going to talk probably for a few minutes each. One's going to talk maybe for 5 or 6 minutes. The other will be for a couple of minutes. And then from that, Tim Dwyer will be talking about the Constitution. Dr. Graham Lyne, but where are you? Oh, over there. Okay. Dr. Graham Lyne's gone, stand up, make yourself well known. There you go. And also Mark Nugent-Bar, where the hell are you? Oh, there's Mark. So they are the three speakers, and about 2 o'clock, I'm not sure of the timing, we're just going to have a quick break, might be 20 minutes, because we don't want to lose the momentum, and then you're going to hear Farmer Wade. He's going to be on for an hour and a half or more, or he'll work that out himself. And then if we've got time, I'd love you to all stay for a Q&A, because we'll get all of the speakers up on the stage. And I just want to say this, if you ask a question, I don't want you to make a speech. Ask a question, straight to the point. And I've also wised up the 4 speakers, don't rave on too long, give a straight answer. Is that fair enough?
He's a tough man.
So, okay, these 2 powerhouse ladies, one is Angela Rogers, she'll tell you what it's about, and there's Matilda Borden, come up on the stage please.
Take 2.
Make a grand entrance. So as she's, give them a clap. And I come over here, Angela. I actually like her. Angela is passionate, looking after our children. You listen to what she has to say. And you're not allowed to go more than 6 or 5 minutes.
All right, I'll try my best. How's everyone going? Good. I won't start with a welcome to country. I think I'll skip all that. For anyone that doesn't know me, the past few years, about 4 years ago, when I started questioning, are these books okay? And trying to pray and find out, how do I proceed? How do I challenge this? And I was being inspired. God gave me this vision of seeing myself talking publicly about these pornographic, sexually explicit books in libraries, and also meeting with members of Parliament. I had a vision or a way forward. I just didn't know how to proceed. And I was thinking, God, of everything, public speaking and about pornographic books, but here I am. So I've been travelling around South Australia, and some of you may have signed a petition that I had a few years ago to seek changes to how these books are accessed and displayed in our libraries. And I've given 2 deputation speeches. I spoke at 2 different councils and spoke around gaining, support for this petition, but bringing more awareness. And what happened was I had a number of victories. One book from the Premier's Reading Challenge book for reception to Year 2 was deleted a couple of years ago from the Premier's Reading Challenge list. 3 R-rated books, and I mean real R-rated, they've been classified by the Australian Classification Board. 3 of them have been removed from South Australian libraries completely. And more recently, and throughout this whole process, a window of opportunity came where I got to do a classifying training program. And if the Classification Board knew that it was me doing the course, they wouldn't have allowed me to do it. And I passed this course. I've never worked in the industry, but I became a classifier for film and games and an assessor. And I've been using this extra knowledge. I wanted to know, how did a sexually explicit manuscript end up freely accessible, unrestricted to children in our schools and libraries? And so I did a lot of research. I researched and I memorised a lot of it, the Classification Acts, the South Australian scheme, and the Federal and the Libraries Acts and Regulations. A few weeks ago, I met with 2 people from the South Australian Libraries Board. Now, I went through a whole range of activities, emails, meetings, and everything for the past 4 years. And I sat down with these ladies as a classifier and assessor, and I got a victory. The petition, I've still got those signatures that will be presented next year. Parliament is down. So I sat with them and they came up with an agreement that they cannot get around when it comes to the law. So anything that has sex and nudity cannot be in the children's area. So any book that is more explicit will be placed in the children's area into the parenting collections. Any books that are even more explicit or more sex instruction will be placed in the adults' areas, and they will consider an M or young adults area for M and MA equivalent books. And the really pornographic ones, the ones that, if classified, would be R-rated, they will make sure the vendors send those books for classification review. So that was a major victory in that response. It will take a few months for them to go through all of the South Australian public libraries to do an assessment and see where these books are, how many they are. Now, I know that under the sex instruction category, there's hundreds of titles. It's going to take a long time. So there's thousands of books because some titles have multiple. Myself, who have been challenged in schools and school curriculum, I won't go into detail now because a lot of us have heard a lot of things. I have been connecting up with other people across Australia who I've been working with and sharing different ways on helping other parents navigate with their children, because schools tell parents that it's compulsory or mandatory for them to learn comprehensive sexuality education, and it's not. So we've been helping parents write letters and template letters and helping them come out with that. But I've also been working with an international group. So this is a coalition of grassroots organisations who all have the same focus. We want to make changes to school curriculum and the indoctrination across the world because we're all facing the same battle. A couple of months ago, at the end of September, this international coalition, we went to Washington, DC, and we had, which was initiated from our American friends, a pack. We had 16 packs to give to Congress, men and women, and we had a day where we just flat out went from one meeting to the next, handing out these packs, which would investigate, if a new bill was revived, to investigate Alfred Kinsey, the Kinsey Institute. Alfred Kinsey, back in the 40s, is pretty much his science is the root of all of the sexualisation, the comprehensive sexuality education, of the evil of that education. Now, I won't talk about it now. You can talk to me afterwards in more details. It's very evil at the root of it all. But and we had a couple of congressmen and women who were quite interested in this investigation. Unfortunately, government shutdown happened, so we're waiting for correspondence, but our American friends are following up with that. I was also invited back to a secondary meeting with Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene's office with her chief staffer, and I spoke about publishing companies and how they are publishing books against their own guidelines. It's difficult with their laws because of their First Amendment rights, but there were some books that do go out of the scope of their guidelines, which he was interested in investigating. We'll see how that goes because we've got international laws and regulations. So that's happening all in the background with the international work I'm doing. While I was in DC too, I met with a group called Mums for America. They opened up a new chapter, which was international, called Mums for Freedom. And I was invited, and I had an interview in America First Studios with America First policy writers. And that was to launch the Mums for Freedom. But I made incredible connections with America First and people who are actually within the White House, and I've made really good connections. One of those ladies has asked me to put together a team to write a new curriculum. So I've put together an Australian team, and we're going to make a new Australian curriculum, and they've got the blueprint. They're going to help guide us through this and some policies. Now, we're going to make it Australian. It's not going to be American, but they know they've got the experience. And, you know, sharing ideas from other countries, we can, you know, pull together some really good ideas. Not everything will work, but some things might. But I know that the people I have pulled together in Australia have been fighting the same fight I've been fighting in their states, and we all have things that we all agree on. So, and we have a pool of knowledge. So that's something that we'll be working on in the long period of time. So it's a very exciting time. I will say this, when I first started this, it was Tim that said to me, keep in your lane, keep your focus. I think he remembers telling me this, and I'm so glad I listened to you, because if I had gone off out of my lane and not keep my focus on what I'm doing and my focus on God, I would have walked into a different storm that did not belong to me. I wouldn't have made the connections. And throughout this whole process, I understand now why they call it a swamp. And it's multi-layered swamp. It's not just one layer. It's so many layers, and it's a web of swamp. So when it comes to, you know, just the indoctrination of children, there's a path forward. It's a long path forward. I mean, with the books and the victory I had, that's only on the explicit books. It doesn't deal at the stage with the rainbow books, and you know what I mean by the rainbow books, because those laws have to be changed. That's a separate issue, and that's something. Now, after 4 years, I've become a candidate for Fair Go for Australia, and I've written a policy, which I know that Sarah Game is fully behind, which will look at different, you know, changes to school and curriculum and everything rooted in biological truth. And I won't stay too much longer on this, but I am working on those. Okay, I'm being told to wrap it up. Anyway, before I finish off, so there is other plans to fight on those issues, but I have had some really good victories on that front. Today with me at the back, now recently with everything that we've experienced with the emergency management, our state government has passed laws recently that gives the state extraordinary emergency powers. We felt this, and in South Australia, they made extra amendments more recently for emergency times. This gives the governments new powers, such as being able to remove or destroy any buildings, structures, vehicles or animals, and subject people to decontamination procedure, isolation, segregation, and medical observations and diagnostic procedures. Sarah Game has put together a petition to repeal that amendment on that bill. With 10,000 signatures, Sarah can present this petition to the person that you spoke to. So, you know, that's how I have to see it. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you, John, for giving me the time to speak.
Well, there's a powerhouse speaker if you ever found one. Matilda Borden is next. Matilda lives in Salisbury, and she's on an unbelievable fight. You'll hear it from her.
Thank you very much. Now, the fight is actually being spearheaded by Grace Borden and Severina Berner. Back in November 2022, they were elected as councillors for the city of Salisbury. I asked Sev and Grace to run for council, not knowing what I was doing. The mayor at the time, Gillian Aldridge, asked me to run, and I put together an $800 campaign. 4 of us ran, and we got 2 elected, which was fantastic to start with. And they were on council for probably less than a month before problems started to crop up. And it really came about as a result of Sev and Grace asking questions about the expenditure that council was considering, redesigning certain parts of Salisbury, certain streets, certain lights, infrastructure and so on. And they noticed there was $10,000 for this and $100,000 for that. And as they're asking questions, what came about was a realisation that they're starting to roll out the Smart Cities program, you know, with the infrastructure that you need, whether it was light poles or, you know, all sorts of things. Anyway, without dragging things on, the more they asked questions, the more they were assaulted. And to the point where even the public, the community, when we came out to effectively voice our objections to the Smart Cities rollout, the mayor and the councillors effectively made it impossible for us to even attend council meetings. They blocked access to the public. They did all sorts of things. And of course, you know, if you were going to go and attend what should have been a free and easy access to a public meeting, you had to QR code, give your name, date, place of birth, etc., etc. Anyway, they were eventually bullied off of council, and so Sev and Grace decided to take the City of Salisbury to court, because City of Salisbury effectively, in 8 minutes, ruled on 4 motions to have them removed, allegedly for missing 3 council meetings. Well, we say they didn't miss those council meetings. They did put in apologies and there were explanations offered. It's a bit of a long story, but you can read all about their story at the back, and you can certainly talk to Sev and Grace. In the meantime, it's been 2 years since they started the Supreme Court action to take council to court, and they lost. Now we've lodged an appeal. So originally they went to 1 judge, judicial review. Now I believe we're going to go to 3 judges, which will be a full Supreme Court appeal. We find that the reasons that were given by this judge just absolutely scandalous and outrageous. You can read all about that on my Substack. If you'd go to Matilda Borden at Substack, I did a bit of a write-up on that. And just lodging the appeal to the full Supreme Court now is $16,500, and that's not including what we had to pay, and we still do owe lawyers for the original appeal. So any help and support you can give us. If you can't donate, please, please, please share their story so that more people know what's going on. Anyway, on that note, thank you very much.
Please welcome Tim Dwyer to the stage. Give him a bit of applause. He's going to talk about the Australian Constitution, how it has been violated, corrupted and shanghaied.
All right, just getting the technical issues sorted. All right, can everybody see that up the back? Yep, all righty. Well, wrong. Yeah, but that's just that slide. Is that better? Okay. Well, for those of you who do not know me, my name's Tim Dwyer. I have studied our lawful constitution for 37 years.
Excuse me. I had a 1-minute introduction of you and I forgot you, mate.
Oh, mate. Yes. That's all right.
Can you tell them about you? My apologies.
Oh, all right. Okay. A little bit of backstory. I was born in Victoria, over near Dalesford. Mum and Dad had pubs, so I worked in pubs and all that sort of stuff. As a young kid, I left school early. I punched the headmaster's lights out at 14. That was the afternoon they figured I no longer needed the education department. Well, he deserved it. Long story. But in the assembly...
Didn't have all of that.
No, I know. But in the assembly, where they expelled me from school, the headmaster stood up and said that I was the most likely student he'd ever seen to end his life in Pentridge Prison. However, he did, not me. Oh, wow. Go figure. Now who's the naughty boy, right? I've worked in pubs and restaurants and all sorts of stuff, and I was introduced to the Constitution by a Baptist minister who was doing a seminar on Christianity and growth in business. And he held up two books, the King James Bible and the Constitution. He said, you need an education in both. And that started me down that journey. And so here I am today speaking to you. Some of you have seen my videos that I put out on Tim's Truth. Thank you for that. I have two little things I want to start with here. This room is not full. And I'll tell you why this room is not full. Because it is not who you are that holds you back. It's who you think you are not. It's not who you are that's holding you back from talking to people, from putting yourself out there. It's who you think you are not. You are worthy. You do have the right. And this one here, in the beginning of change, the patriot is a scarce man and a brave and hated and scorned man. But when his cause succeeds, the timid join him, for then the cost is nothing. It only costs the patriot. So, we're on screen right now. Down in that bottom left-hand corner is the Magna Carta. That is the foundation of all law in this country. The English Bill of Rights of 1686 or 89. We have the English Bill of Rights. It came with the Constitution that is an act of the English Parliament at Federation. Now, there's a lot of people who would say, oh, the Constitution's old hat, we've moved on past that, or this wasn't right, or that wasn't right. The Constitution that we have here, the Act, is the most powerful protection of the people, because what John said before, the people of New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia, Queensland and Western Australia came on later on, and Tasmania, humbly relying on the blessings of Almighty God, have agreed to unite in one indissoluble Commonwealth Constitution. Indissoluble, just can't be got rid of. Period. Now, click please. I didn't bring my clicker. So, yeah. Now, Andrew Inglis Clark, and it was at the function, Mark, we were at in Adelaide, where I found out about Andrew Inglis Clark. John, can you pass that, see a blue bag over there, please?
Yes, sir.
Yep, can you pass that bag over to me?
This one?
Yep. It's got to wait.
Was it a bomb in there?
Yeah, mate, yeah, so behave yourself.
Don't blow the joint up.
I'm going to put this book up on the table, and I would encourage all of you to go and have a look at this book if you have any interest in the history of how this Constitution came about, how this Commonwealth came about. Even after 35 years, 36 years of studying the Constitution, I still learned a hell of a lot out of that book. It is brilliant. Anyway, Clark introduced the Constitution. He'd written the whole thing pretty much, right? And there's the founding fathers of our Constitution. Click, please. Oh, well, we'll figure it out. This is what you're seeing on screen. That is the letters patent of our country. The letters patent. And in that letters patent, it is the document that created the office of the Governor-General. This has the Queen, as the Queen's representative in the colony, and one of his roles, or her roles, is to swear in a legitimate parliament. We're going to touch on that. This is my copy of the book. As you can see, it gets work. This is not a pretty book to sit on a shelf. If you own one of these, if you bought one of these, if I come to your house and it's sitting on a shelf and it's not dog-eared and worked, I'll take it off you. Because we are the only people in the country today selling the original constitutions. You cannot buy it through Parliament. Click, please. All right, now, a Governor-General is appointed by the Queen and shall be her representative in the Commonwealth and shall have and may exercise in the Commonwealth during the Queen's pleasure, but subject to this Constitution, such powers and functions of the Queen or Her Majesty may be pleased to assign him. Click, please. This is the sitting of the first Parliament in Melbourne. On the 9th of May, our first Parliament. That was at the Exhibition Buildings in Melbourne, right? And that was all put together by Lord Hopetoun, who was our first Governor-General. And just as an aside, Lord Hopetoun's great-grandson is married to the daughter of a friend of ours. And Lord Hopetoun's great-grandson shows a keen interest in Australia. Click, please. The executive government. Now, here's something unique. Now, let me explain something. I know I'm going to rattle on through here and some of you will glaze over. If I see you glazing over, I've got a duster up here and I'll hurl it at you. Okay? Do you know why you glaze over? Because you were told as kids, don't talk politics and religion. The two things that matter the most, politics and religion, guide your world. And the politicians are bargaining that you don't know anything about this. Do you know why? Because they made it unlawful to teach this Constitution in the schools in 1975. I wonder why. Anyhow, the executive power of the Commonwealth is invested in the Queen and is exercisable by the Governor-General as the Queen's representative and extends to the execution and maintenance of this Constitution. Click, please. Now, here's our Governor-General. A diversity hire at best. It's an $800,000 a year auto pen. Why? She says it here. The King does not direct me and I don't seek his advice. It is the Prime Minister and the ministry I take my counsel from. Over the Parliament to stop the Parliament from running. And this is what you got. An auto pen. Click, please. Our Constitution puts the authority and power in the hands of the people, whereas the people, humbly, didn't say whereas the Parliament, didn't say whereas the Governor-General, it said whereas the people. And the people and the Parliament is to manage the day-to-day affairs of the business for and on behalf of the people. The government's there to work on our behest, not rule over us. They are not our overlords. Click, please. The legislative power of the Commonwealth shall be vested in the Federal Parliament, which shall consist of the Queen, the Senate and the House of Representatives, and which is hereinafter called the Parliament or the Parliament of the Commonwealth, not the Parliament of Australia. There is no such thing at law in this country as the Parliament of Australia. Click, please. It is an absolute fraud. People tried to take the parliamentarians to the High Court because they hadn't sworn their lawful oath. They can't sit in office under Section 42. And the case was refused to be heard as the outcome may be too disruptive to society. So the High Court would rather see criminal activity persist than truth and honesty prevail. Move. Click, please. Click, please. No, it didn't move. We're not clicking? Okay. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to jump down there. Can you pass me the microphone, John?
Yes.
All right.
You know what you're doing.
can see.
How much is that doggy in the window?
What happens? All right, gotcha. All right, so what we've now got is, you can all see that without me up there, the colour of law, a mere semblance of legal rights, something done with the apparent authority of law, but actually in contravention of law. So that means it sounds right, it looks right, they're official, they've got the I am the honourable. They've lost the meaning of the word, but I am the honourable. And what I say goes. Okay, wait. The Crimes Act. In 1973, Gough Whitlam put up 115 pages of changes to our laws. And he took the Commonwealth out of every statute and every law in the book. It's me, it's the people. We are the Commonwealth. And he replaced it with Australia, being the corporate Australia, not the Commonwealth, you and I, the Commons, right? The Crimes Act 1966 is amended by the Crimes Act 1973, omit from paragraph 1 the Great Seal of the Commonwealth and insert the Great Seal of Australia. No referendum, nobody knew it happened. Treason. And we are still there. Click, please. This is the Great Seal of Australia. It's bullshit seal. It has no actual authority whatsoever. It carries no weight at law. But, as you'll see shortly, there is no separation of powers, so the justices in the High Court are appointed by the members of Parliament and the Prime Minister, and they're not going to rule against the ones who are paying the bills, are they? Probably not. Anyhow, so that carries no law at all. Click, please. This latest one, you might have seen Elbow Sleazy present King Charles with the new seal. How many people in this room, please, have a company or have had a company? Your companies would have had a seal, is that correct? Well, this is the seal of the registered corporation of the Commonwealth of Australia in the United States. That is the government corporate seal. It is not the constitutional corporate seal. This belongs only to the Parliament of Australia. And every state is the same. You talk about a hoodwink, you talk about stealing an entire nation out from under the noses of everybody because you're too busy trying to pay your mortgage. You're too busy worrying about your kids or your grandkids, whether they're on drugs or where they are or what they're doing, because that's how it is. They don't want you digging down into this sort of stuff. Click, please. Oh, click again. We won't go through that, right? Haven't got time. All right. When the legislative and executive powers are united in the same person or in the same body of magistracy, right, and that's correct spelling, there can be then no liberty, because the apprehension may rise lest the same monarch or senate should enact tyrannical laws to execute them in a tyrannical manner. Wade, how many farmers sit there and go, how much legislation have I got to bloody wade through to get through to this? The weight of complying with the tyrannical movement. And that is because there is no separation of powers, either state or federal. There should be. It's the only way you get a real deal. What you've got now is a snow job, a con job, done by the best con men in the world. Click, please. Like I said before, there she is, the Governor-General. She's an 800 a year plus expenses auto pen. She will sign whatever they tell her to sign. Yes, Massa, do it again, Massa. That is the Governor-General. And I'm sad to say the governors of each state are in exactly the same boat. This isn't just picking on the feds. Our Constitution covers all states, and their fraud runs through all states. Click, please. So, not the Prime Minister. We saw that one before. The King doesn't direct me and I don't seek his advice. It's the Prime Minister. That is totally wrong. Click, please. Okay, now, this is where we want to try and get them into the High Court. This is the oath in the Constitution. I, AB, so if it was me, it'd be I, Timothy Dwyer, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Victoria, her heirs, her successors, according to law, so help me God. Or if I did an affirmation, it would be, I, Timothy Joseph Dwyer, do solemnly and sincerely affirm and declare that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Victoria, her heirs and successors, according to law. That's the oath. Click, please. This is Anthony Norman Albanese's oath. And what we've got at home printed out is every minister's oath, every senator's oath on paper, plus video. We have the evidence. I, Anthony Norman Albanese, do solemnly and sincerely affirm and declare that I will well and truly serve the Commonwealth of Australia, her lands and her people in the office of Prime Minister. Is there any similarity there, please?
His name.
No, yeah, right. It's just bastardry at its best. And every member of Parliament does the same thing. And I've had several senators, federal senators, say, yes, but I swore the right oath. To do the oath, you must swear the oath and then, because it is a contract between you and the people. And the senators say the right words, but then they don't sign it. They go and sign a registry that they'd said their oath. There's no signature on the contract. It's a snow job. We're being snowed. It looks about right, sounds about right, and we're the honourable and three wobbling heads behind them when they stand in front of the microphone. They have no legitimacy at law whatsoever. Click, please. Now, halfway down this one, there's the oath above it, and there is no provision for any deviation from this constitutional requirement. No member may take part in proceedings of the House until sworn in. Click, please. There's a list of the videos of the Prime Ministers swearing in their false, criminal, treasonous corporate oath. What they're swearing is the Republic oath. Remember how they wanted us to become a republic? Well, what they're swearing is a Republican oath. We do not have a republic. Not one of them has the legitimacy to sit in that place, let alone be paid a penny. Click, please. So no lawful oath, no lawful authority. If you want to put a sticker on your car, they're $4 up there in the box. They're good on you, John. Next, click. This, the Australian, yep, we've seen that one before, click. Here's something you want to pay attention to. When our brave men and women went to the First and Second World War, on the left-hand side it says Australian Commonwealth Military Force. Right? On the right, it says Australian Military Force, no Commonwealth. Right? Click, please. The money on the left, Commonwealth of Australia. On the right, Australia. They're telling you in plain sight that they are not part of the Commonwealth. And we go, oh yeah, but what can I do? I'm only one bloke. It's not who you are. that holds you back. It's who you think you are not. I'm only one bloke. Angela's only one woman. Wade's only one bloke. It's not who you are that's holding you back. It's who you think you are not. Click, please. Oh, no, go back one, please. Okay, the $20 bill on the bottom right. See how Australia is all in cursive and it's perpendicular to the page? And that tells you it's not on the page because under grammar, anything perpendicular is not on the page. Different font, it's not on the page. They're telling you it's counterfeit. But you're too busy. Oh my God, there's a cooking show on, there's a dancing show on. Oh, little Freddie's got to go to soccer. Oh, click please. Coinage. Coinage is an act or a process of converting metal into money for circulation. The coining and legitimisation of the money is one of the exclusive prerogatives of the Crown. But from the earliest times, it has been regulated by Parliament, only regulated. The Crown is the only one that has the prerogative to coin money. In 1973, they got rid of the Crown. Are you using any money minted after 1973? Then it is a forgery, it is unlawful, and everybody involved in it is a criminal. They know it, they're bargaining on you not caring. Click please. The Crimes Act, the Great Seal of Australia. Whitlam took it out. With a stroke of a pen, he just took it out. Click please. Are you voting in a corporate election? South Australia's got an election coming up. We've had an election federally. We've all voted in them and done all this stuff and argued who's going to be better and this one will be better. No. Every state and federal government is under the auspices of the United Nations. Where do you think you get the money from to put $10 billion into a building project of roads, another $100 billion somewhere else? The United Nations, because Australia is a signatory to the United Nations, Australia is instructed by the United Nations to borrow all money through the International Monetary Fund to do all the big projects, and you think paying taxes puts money in for the roads and the schools and all the rest of the stuff. Not even close. Not even close. So you think, oh, let's go and vote. Really? Well, let's have a look at this. The Australian Capital Territory Representation House of Representatives Act, 1973, omit from the definition of Jervis Bay Territory, and that's a whole different cat of fish, omit the Chief Electoral Officer of the Commonwealth and insert Chief Australian Electoral Officer. You think you're voting for the Commonwealth or a... No, you're not. You're voting in a corporate election, and under ASIC rules, if you do not hold a share in that corporation, you're breaking the law by casting a ballot. You want to talk about a deep, deep, deep pit of snakes? This goes on and on and on and on, and it just gets deeper and worse. And I'm trying to keep it a little bit lively for you so you don't glaze over and go, well, bloody hell, what do we do? We'll get to that. Click. There's the two different constitutions. The one on the left is the real Commonwealth Constitution. The green one on the right is the corporate document that every company has to have their own constitution. I have two companies. We've got two constitutions in those companies. And so does the Corporation of Australia has to have its constitution. It's copyrighted. Moving right along, click. So, did you know there's two Commonwealths? How many people knew there's two Commonwealths? A handful of you. There's two. There are two Commonwealths, a corporate Commonwealth and an original Non-corporate Commonwealth. This is clearly defined in the Public Governance Performance and Accountability Act 2013. They state in the small print that the corporate Commonwealth entities are legally separate from the Commonwealth, and the non-corporate Commonwealth entities are part of the Commonwealth. Hello? The state of South Australia is a corporate entity within the Commonwealth. The Australian Taxation Office is a corporate entity within the corporate Commonwealth. And you think you're going to get justice going into a court. You think that the politicians know the law. No, they don't. And if they do, they're in blatant breach of it. Period, end of story. And if you point out to them that they're in breach of it, which I've done on a few occasions, do you know what I get told? Doesn't worry me, take it to the High Court. Two things: they know it costs a few dollars to get to the High Court. Two, they know the High Court will not rule on these matters, because if they did, and we've got other Freedom of Information documents where not one member of the High Court has sworn their lawful oath of office. What sort of dog and pony show are we trying to run here? People say, oh, I'll get into politics and I'll fix it from within. Is operating under the colour of law. Click. On the left-hand side, you'll see in Old Parliament House the chair of the Speaker. If you look up above the Speaker's seat, you'll see a veranda and a carving of the crown. The Speaker sat under the crown. If you look on the right, New Parliament House, the Speaker sits under a sprig of wattle, the Brotherhood of the Wattle. Could be koalas, I don't know. There, click. This is the legitimate Parliament. It is the seat of all authority in the country. Parliament House in Canberra is the United Nations corporate headquarters in Australia. Click. Okay, climate change. I'm going to rip through this fairly quickly. Yep. If anybody's interested in the wording of the two different Commonwealths, we've got a free sheet of paper up there that's got all that on it. Okay, we'll get that to you. Okay, the god of climate change, COP30 in Brazil. This is the statue that they built as the honour of COP30, climate change. Now, let me put it to you this way. There's not many men out there that I would imagine to be bigger sinners than me. I've done my share of nasty stuff, and I'm sure you have too. However, ever knowingly bow down to something like that. And anybody pushing climate change, this is their false god that they are bowing down to. This is the god of climate change. It's satanic, pure Satan.
Explain it.
Okay, so let's have a look at it. You've got the bony hands wrapped around the world, right? You've got the fangs coming out of it like a dragon. You've got the horns of the goat. And anybody that's ever been inside any sort of church and understood a little bit of the Bible would understand that ain't good. That's not something you want to get involved with. You don't want to support that. Click. Okay, you're worried about your car, your tractor putting out too much fumes, you know, you're doing stuff every day. Oh, I've got to buy an electric car, save the planet. They're economical. They're easy to repair. They're cheap to repair. Not that they need much of it, but it's 20 years old and I'll still get to Sydney the same time you will in whatever you're driving. All right? My Commodore does 6 litres per 100 kilometres because I run it partly on hydrogen, and the South Australian government about it. And anyway, that's another whole story. But they're just a few of the aeroplanes putting out a bit of fumes. Click, please. And if the aeroplanes weren't bad enough, here's a few ships.
These are what?
These are ships, fishing trawlers, ocean liners, cargo carriers and tankers. And cruisers and all sorts of stuff. They're the ships. This was yesterday. That is yesterday. And so if some snot dribbling thing comes up to you and says, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, climate change is going to kill us all, go and talk to the captains of the ships. Click. Coal. Oh, coal, bad, bad, nasty coal. Blow up the power stations. They're no good to you. They'll kill us all. We sell our coal to India and China at a rate that would astound you. By the millions of tonnes. They use that cheap energy to make wind turbines to us, so we get unreliable, so expensive electricity that destroys our own environment, but they have cheap energy for their industries. We have this lunatic Bowen who's bowed down to that thing there, and his cohorts that are driving at the United Nations who are driving it behind him, saying, oh, coal's bad, coal's bad. See that map with all the dots? That's China, and these are new coal-powered projects in China in 2024. Not the existing ones, just the new ones. And we think that we are going to say that our government is charging us trillions of dollars that we don't have, that they're borrowing through the UN to ram it down our throat, to put us into debt for the next 200 years. China's getting cheap energy. They have the industry. We buy the leftovers and pay a massive price for it. And they want somebody to elect them in a false election to break our constitutional law over and over and over and over again. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not who you are that is holding you back. It is who you think you are not. And that is the problem within all of Australia. It's who we think we're not. Well, I can tell you this. I don't know about you. I don't live in your skin. I live in my skin. And I've been out here for years banging on about this. And next year, I think it's time to stop banging on about all this and do something significant about it. Because if they are sitting in an office by fraud, I'm sure that we could bum rush a few of them out the door like drunks on a Saturday night in the pub. Scruff of the neck, seat of the pants, sorry, sunshine, you're out. We have a legal document that is being put together in a way whereby the International Criminal Court would have no other choice but to support it if we can't get the change we want. And so what you do here is this. You have in your hands the most powerful constitution ever written, more powerful than the United States Constitution. In your personal protection of who you are the authority. The absolute, total and uncontrollable authority remains with the people. That's what's written in the book. They have lied to you, they have deceived you, they have stolen from you, they have committed fraud every day of the week, and still we let them get away with the honourable Prime Minister, the honourable this. There is no honour. There is no honour. All is not lost. Stand up. Be strong of heart. You need the knowledge to know, and I know you haven't had time to study it as many others have, but the law says, first in time, first in law. Our Constitution is first in time in front of their corporate constitution. Our Commonwealth seal was first in time against their Great Seal of Australia. We are first in line. And this year, this 2026, will have to be the year that some really, really big... Thank you. My name is Tim Dwyer. I'll see you.
Yes.
Wow, wasn't that a great information session? That is mighty. I think, Tim, you've done an unbelievable job, and give him another round of applause. That is unbelievable. Am I on? This time I'm going to do it properly. I'm now going to introduce Dr. Graham Lyons, and where I failed to introduce Tim. But Tim, I think you did a better job of yourself than I would have done. Anyhow, give Dr. Graham a bit of a clap for attending. This bloke I've met over probably about 3 years ago. Edna and I invited ourselves to his property, and we actually had a barbecue lunch on his dam while how many Angus cattle were wandering around?
There were more then. I was overstocked. I'm now
He's overstocked.
about 60 then.
Okay. Anyhow, he's a great bloke, this fella. He'll entertain you, I'm sure. You think he looks a bit passive, but when he gets going, wow. Anyhow, he grew up in Adelaide, studied agricultural science in Adelaide University, ran a cattle development program in the Solomon Islands in the early 1980s, then managed a family agri-business in SA, including Glen Bold Angus Stud. Returned to Adelaide University in the late 1990s. If you go to university, you go woke, don't you?
Not me, John.
Okay. And I went offline there and completed a master's degree in public health and PhD on alleviating micronutrients deficiencies in soil, plants and people. Wow. Managed the Harvest Plus Washington DC based food systems program for 5 years, conducting agromikes, biofortification and sweet potato R&D in SA, China, East Africa, Tibet, England, Colombia, Indonesia, PNG, Solomons, can't pronounce this, Kiribati and Tuvalu, the Harvest Plus director, and 3 sweet potato researchers in Africa, was awarded the 2016 Food Prize and de facto Nobel Prize for Food and Agriculture. More recently, agronomic nutrition research includes salt tolerance in cereals and nutrient content of edible leafy plants in Pacific countries. Graham has written several books and book chapters and numerous scientific articles. Since early 20s, he has focused on family, farm, and fighting against the tyranny. Please welcome again Dr. Graham Lyons.
Thank you, John.
Do you want to put,
Should I?
put it in there?
I just say yes, yeah. Oh, thanks, Tim. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, thank you very much, John. And
Not on yet.
not on yet.
Get close.
Get these out of the way.
Speak in the mic.
Thank you to John and Edna and Kim and Faye for inviting me to speak today. It's a privilege. So, afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming. I tend to I get carried away, so I've got to try and stick to the script. Otherwise, I'll go in all directions. So one of Tim's main themes is deception. We're living under massive deception. That's another of my themes, so you'll hear me mention that a couple of times. This talk will include a summary of what happened during the corona hoax and the deployment of the vax. You'll see me do a few air quotes at times. The Australian and UK governments have conducted whitewash reviews, which most of us can see are untrue. But of course they had to do this in order to conceal their massive crime. And I'll also look at the case of Rainer Fulmich. I'll look briefly at the WHO, One Health and the Australian CDC, as Wade will cover them as well, I think. Next, I'll look at vaccination and germ theory, because no talk by Channel 9's notorious anti-vaxxer would be complete without those. Then I have suggestions on how to deal with diktats, etc., based upon lies for the next time they try to impose overt tyranny. And I'll conclude with a supportive message for awake truth seekers who refuse to become slaves on the proposed digital plantation. Okay, COVID 1984 and the vax. I'll be quite brief here because I think I'm speaking to a mostly awake group that knows what happened as well as I do. Pharmakia is Greek for to beguile, trick and deceive. And unfortunately, a lot of people fell for the corona hoax, the COVID coup, scamdemic, COVID 1984, call it what you will. There was no novel coronavirus, and the so-called COVID PCR test does not detect viruses. So what we saw was a pandemic of fake positive tests, cheered on by Harmer, that's what I call Big Pharma, governments and the corporate media. The spurious notion of pandemics, which can then be alleviated by mass vaccination, is enabled by belief in germ theory, which is not supported by evidence. More on that later. We saw a fear campaign based upon lies. Governments love to strike fear into the populations they manage and control because they know that they can impose more authoritarian, even totalitarian measures on a fearful population than they can usually get away with. This is why the military-industrial complex like to conduct wars, not to mention their great profitability. In Orwell's 1984, England, designated as Airstrip 1, is in a perpetual state of war. I think COVID represented a test for two traits or characteristics. First, discernment, the ability to differentiate truth from lies, and there are numerous scriptural references to this, and also courage, the most intrinsic of human qualities, to not go along with the fake narrative. Of course, courage is the antidote to fear. None of the COVID diktats or mandates, such as masks, social distancing, house arrests, aka lockdowns, and the vax, were or are based on real evidence, facts, genuine science, and were actually unlawful. There was no emergency. It was all fiction. I could talk for an hour on this subject, but I think most of you know it already, and I don't wish to bore you with reiteration. And there is voluminous material on the internet and in books and articles about the contents and ill effects of the vax, epidemiology, COVID deaths, so-called, which attracted lucrative payments to hospitals, etc. Be aware, as Tim told us of course, the higher level perpetrators of this atrocity knew exactly what they were doing, while those lower on the pyramid of control were probably not smart enough to discern the falsity of the narrative. and just did what they were told in order to keep their jobs. As far as I'm aware, not one of those responsible has faced justice, and I'll say more on this at the end of this talk, which should mean long jail terms for the incalculable damage they have caused to the world's people. On the other hand, whistleblowers and those opposing this tyranny have been persecuted and prosecuted and even jailed. Probably the most notable is Rainer Fulmick, and in fact, I'll go off the script here. Rainer interviewed me in late 2021 for an hour, and I could see what a great bloke he was, and with him at the time was Viviane Fischer, who later betrayed him. He has been persecuted for several reasons. One is that he exposed fraud in Volkswagen. He was the attorney who showed they were committing fraud with talking about diesel exhausts. And the other one was much bigger fraud than that, committed by Deutsche Bank. So we're talking two big corporates here in Germany. The system of control doesn't like little people beating its big corporations. And then when the COVID tyranny was brought down, he exposed that with his Corona Investigative Committee, and the German government ended up kidnapping him from Mexico. This is over 2 years ago, about 2 years, 3 months ago, flew him to Germany, and he's been in jail ever since. It was at least a year before he even faced trial, and it's a travesty of a trial, kangaroo court. I'm not sure what they call him in Germany. We'd call it that. And the judge, the prosecutor, several attorneys were absolutely corrupt. And at any rate, people like me try to support Rainer. I write letters to him and he always replies. He's holding up very well, I can tell you. But he likes support. And he was sentenced initially, at the end, to nearly 4 years. And for a trumped-up charge. He was trying to protect the funds that came into that committee. The government was threatening to steal them. And then the government got hold of his colleagues and somehow persuaded them, probably with large amounts of money, and to testify against Rainer. So they were the ones who actually committed the crime. They stole not only the money that was donated, but also the proceeds from his own house. So this is the sort of nonsense he's had to put up with. At any rate, he's still in jail, but we're hoping that he can be got out much quicker than nearly 4 years. Now, I'll look briefly at is an agency, I think, as you know, the World Health Organization of the unelected UN, and was founded in 1948, and it's based in Geneva. It's funded by member countries, in particular the USA, and by the Gates Foundation. Its Director General, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, is a former communist terrorist. But the WHO is just one of the organisations that comprise the so-called One Health framework. This is a formal partnership between the WHO, the Food and Agriculture Organisation, that's the FAO, based in Rome, the World Organisation for Animal Health, and the UN Environmental Programme. It's based on the notion that human, animal and environmental health form a single system. The most important part of the global framework is or are the International Health Regulations, IHR. These were first agreed to in 2005 and revised in 2024 and are legally binding on all WHO member states. Among other things, every signatory must implement WHO recommendations during emergencies. And who decides whether there is an emergency? WHO. Under the IHR, each country designates a national focal point, the body that communicates directly with the WHO. Thus, it doesn't consult DFAT, the Parliament, or the Cabinet. In Australia, this will be the Australian Centre for Disease Control, with the acronym ACDC. To quote, it will become an independent agency on January the 1st, 2026. That's not far off. And by working to protect the country, I missed a bit there, and it aims to improve the health of all Australians by working to protect the country from health threats. Well, that sounds all very nice and benign. In other words, keeping you safe. Well, I think you know by now that whenever governments talk about keeping you safe, you run a mile. I suggest we need an outfit like this, like a hole in the head. Look at how its US counterpart behaved during COVID. The One Health framework expands ACDC's, footprint well beyond microbes and modelling to connect to agricultural policy, climate and environmental modelling, wildlife and biosecurity management, and long-range ecological goals, including biodiversity commitments. The young boys, I would suggest, must be spinning and squirming with the venerable rock group Akadaka's name purloined and muddied by these so-called health tyrants. Indeed, it will be a highway to hell. I hope some of you know what I'm talking about, the work of that venerable band, which was in Adelaide recently for the car races. Indeed, it'll be a highway to hell because the ACDC will have sweeping powers, no parliamentary oversight or public accountability, and will receive its orders direct from the WHO. This is a recipe for tyranny and a repeat of COVID on steroids. Concocted epidemics and pandemics form part of a global plan which is satanic in nature. Figure there to do with the climate change nonsense and tyrannical mind to kill and enslave the bulk of mankind. If this isn't worth opposing, I don't know what is. The following should resonate with those politicians who signed Australians up to this dystopian BS. It's a long way to the top unless you sell your soul, could be their theme song. And it's not just the uni-party left wing's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, Foreign Minister Penny Wong and Health Minister Mark Butler who have sold us out. I looked up who was in power in 2005 when Australia signed up to the international health regulations. None other than uni-party right-wing conservative icons, that's in the air quotes, John Howard, Alexander Downer and Tony Abbott. And what about 2015 when Australia signed up to UN Agenda 2030, the umbrella over all of the aforementioned? That was uni-party moderates. Malcolm Turnbull, Julie have been indoctrinated or indoctrinated in it virtually since birth. And if you worry that I'm being polemical when I talk anti-vax, don't be. We are propagandised relentlessly on an almost daily basis by the enemy. Thus, when I'm presented with an opportunity to talk the counter-narrative, I make the most of it. Very good book on this subject is that by Mark and Samantha Bailey from New Zealand. Probably a number of you will know of their work. They're friends of mine. It's called The Final Pandemic, An Antidote to Medical Tyranny. There's a good book for our time. And it's a sequel to Virus Mania. The lack of evidence to support germ theory is discussed by the Baileys, Andrew Kaufman, Tom Cowan, Stefan Lanka, and numerous other genuine researchers not funded by Harmer. No supposed pathogen has ever fulfilled Koch or Koch's postulates of causality for a specific disease. Even Koch himself, who, like Pasteur and Jenner, was essentially a fraudster, failed to do so. It took me about a month to grasp this, so I don't expect you to believe me if you haven't been confronted with this information previously. If you lack time to read certain books on this, I can recommend Steve Falconer's documentary, The End of Germ Theory. It's on the internet, available for free. From the Bailey's book, I quote, "In essence, fictional diseases are created by and for the medico-pharmaceutical industry to garner very real profits, all the while having nothing to do with improving health. Indeed, I would take it further. They aim to do exactly the opposite." This is a glaring example of Ivan Illich's medicalisation of life, a very unhealthy phenomenon. And these are some of my reference books. I've got plenty of. That's Ivan Illich's famous book, Limits to known as Medical Nemesis. He was a genius and also a Catholic priest, interestingly enough. Harmer is adept at ascribing conditions caused by nutritional deficiencies, for example, beriberi and pellagra, and environmental toxins to viruses. Polio provides a classic example for the latter. Its neurological symptoms, which can include partial paralysis, were actually caused by the pesticides lead arsenate and later DDT. And what about the notion of contagion? The Baileys, Steve Falconer and others have examined the research of Rosenau et al. And others who are unable to demonstrate even a single case of person-to-person transmission of the supposedly virulent, deadly H1N1 Spanish flu virus of 1918 to 1920. They did this on an island in the Boston Harbour. It was later repeated with the same results in the San Francisco area. A new generation of world parasite perpetrators pulled out the Spanish flu pandemic playbook just over a century later with COVID, with HIV/AIDS perpetrated along the way in the 1980s, which can be viewed in retrospect as a prequel or trial run for COVID. This is well documented. Another book here, The Real Anthony Fauci by Robert Kennedy Jr., highly recommended. He covers that in considerable detail and a lot of other good stuff. Indeed, the SARS-CoV-2 virus has not been isolated and identified because it does not exist, other than as a computer model, a so-called in silico virus. Likewise for HIV, polio, rabies, measles, influenza, etc. Tom Cowan, in The Truth About Contagion 2021, states, "The germ theory is wrong, the virus theory is wrong. Viruses are not here to kill us. In reality, they are exosomes, whose role is to detoxify. A war on viruses is a war on life." This reminds me of the demonisation of carbon dioxide, which Tim touched on, which is plant food, the gas of life. And what about the so-called diagnostic tests? For example, the COVID polymerase chain reaction, or PCR, test that supposedly identifies specific viruses. I've run out of air quotes. I'm doing so many of them, I think I'll leave them from now on. But which its inventor, Carrie Mullis, who died mysteriously in August 2019 and who had earlier debunked HIV, stated repeatedly does nothing of the sort. As Mark Bailey states eloquently, the PCR is a manufacturing tool for molecular amplification that has become a tool for social control. And is there anyone here who hasn't heard of my experience with the PCR test? I was hoping to see a few hands. Oh yes, I've got a couple. Yep, I love telling this story. It provides an example of how when these bastards get in your face, how you stand up to them. I was confronted at the airport, Adelaide Airport. My family lives in Brisbane. March 2021, by a phalanx from the medical industrial complex, COVID branch. All I could do not to burst out laughing at the sight of them, all masked up with their visors, PPE equipment, this sort of garbage. At any rate, they instructed me, because I'd been in Brisbane for the previous 3 months, or 3 weeks, that I would have to undergo 3 COVID PCR tests, and they'd all have to be negative. And as well as being locked up in my house for 2 weeks. And I told them, look, mate, I'm a real scientist. I know this test is fraudulent, which I did right from the start. I'm not going to undertake it. He nearly fell off his chair, summoned a policeman, told him the same thing. He said, well, sir, you'll have to spend another 10 days in self-isolation, i.e. house arrest. And so I was locked up in my home for 24 days, visited by 10 police officers, and at the end they want to fine me $1,000. I said, I'm not going to bloody well pay your fine. So they took me to court, couldn't even get in the building because I wouldn't wear a face nappy. So my lawyer dealt with them. In the end, they dropped the charge against me nearly a year later. They like to put you through the process and hope that you'll fold. Well, I didn't fold, because the next step would have been having me in court debunking that test, which would have done very easily. They're still using it. Can you believe this? For bird flu and other non-existent viruses. At any rate, that was my experience. Let's look at vaccination. Like its germ theory parent, the more you investigate it, the worse it looks. The medical industrial complex is quick to claim that vaccination was responsible for eliminating most. I question everything now. Incidence and mortality of these conditions, they had declined more than 90% from their peaks in the late 19th or early 20th century, well before vaccination was introduced, with the exception of the particularly harmful smallpox vax, introduced early in the 19th century, and which produced smallpox and caused deaths wherever it was imposed. In fact, there was healthier living conditions due to improved housing, sewerage systems, safe drinking water, more nutritious food, and reduced exposure to cooking smoke that alleviated those conditions. Got another book here. It's called Vaccination, very appropriate title. Australia's Loss of Health Freedom, Judy Wileman. She wrote that in 2015. It was her PhD thesis at Wollongong University. Very prescient book with what unfolded several years later. This is what Gandhi had to say about it. Vaccination is a barbarous practice and one of the most fatal of all the delusions in our time. Conscientious objectors to vaccination should stand alone, if need be, against the whole world in defence of their conviction. So that's what the great man said. This book contains, that's the Wileman book, much valuable information on Australia's vaccine policy and on vaxxers themselves, including 43 pages, no less, devoted to the useless, harmful human papilloma virus, that's HPV vax, known as Gardasil. But I found the most compelling statement in the book to be proof that vaccine-induced seroconversion results in immunity to disease has not been demonstrated in side effects, but they're rare, far outweighed by their benefits. No, their ill effects are common and they provide absolutely no benefits. The notion that an increase in a particular antibody is a marker for immunity is ridiculous and is one of the reasons why HARMA includes aluminium and mercury in many vaxxers, because they cause inflammation, which increases antibodies. In any case, those who understand natural health talk about our detoxification system rather than an immune system. Infants and children in Australia are assaulted with multiple vaxes. The current Australian immunisation schedule prescribes 51 vaccinations before the age of 5 years, with some administered concurrently, and this equates to 27 jabs, just under the USA's 32. For example, infants at 2, 4 and 6 months are supposed to get diphtheria, tetanus, whooping cough, hepatitis B, polio and HIV, that's influenza type B, and separately rotavirus, pneumococcal disease, and if you're Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander, meningococcal B. This leads me to my next book. Another very good one, A Vaccine Journey by Raina Cruz, whose 2-month-old son died a day after being administered with one of those multiple vaxes. Start of this book, it's heartbreaking. And then that's what started her on her vaccine journey. And then she lists all the vaxes on the schedule here with all their ingredients, and they're just about all poison. So that's a really good book, and she's honoured me by asking me to printing of that, which I've sent her plenty of material. She's currently in jail. She shouldn't be there. It was largely trumped up. They didn't show the right video at her trial. She was supposedly in for assaulting a policewoman. It was the policewoman who did more of the assaulting. And initially she was given a suspended sentence. Then on appeal by, you can imagine who, about 3 of them, representing the evil system of control, the sentence was upheld. It's nearly 4 years. Oddly enough, very similar to Rainer Fulmich's sentence. Might be some sort of Freemasonic connection there, I don't know. At any rate, that's a very good a book by Rainer, and in fact Stuart Lindsay and I visited her in the women's prison several months ago. She's doing fine. I predict that she'll come out of there stronger even than she was before, and she's had a lot of tragedy in her life, but she'll overcome that. So she's doing fine. Now, where was I? That was Rainer's book, and also the Robert Kennedy book is very good on all these vax things. So I mentioned that earlier. So in summary, the only safe vaccine is the one never used. The only immunity provided by vaccination is that to harmer itself against prosecution for the countless deaths and injuries caused by toxic products. Of course, the daddy of all vaxes in the history of mankind is the COVID vaccine. I was going to stop doing that, wasn't I? I've got so used to it that it's become second nature, which has caused far more deaths and injuries than all others combined. Together with other researchers and commentators, I estimate the death toll to date worldwide to be at least 150 million, with many more injured. Yet according to most public health authorities, who are almost invariably harmer, shills and puppets, and the corporate fake news media, it's still safe and effective. Here is the explanation for their obtuse, ignorant stance. This comes from Zero Hedge several years ago. The system will stop at nothing to hold on to its power and, if possible, increase its levels of control and exploitation. It has no scruples, no lie is too outrageous, no hypocrisy too nauseating, no human sacrifice too great. Now, how to deal with this nonsense? This is my last section before concluding. In October, I published the short Substack talk, How to Survive Clown World. The following is a summary. 1, do not succumb to fear. As mentioned already, a fearful population is easier to control. Look what happened during COVID. 2, always be sceptical of Must stop doing that. Authorities and official experts presented by governments and the corporate media, who are usually harmer funded, and none have been brought to justice to date. 3, be a truth seeker, a fact seeker. As I say repeatedly, and Tim drummed into us, we are living in a world of deception. You need to question everything and conduct your own research. This overlaps the previous point. Correct knowledge is powerful. This is a particularly dangerous time for mankind when ignorance can easily prove fatal. 4, this is the most important point, do not comply with government diktats, mandates and rules which are based upon lies. Disobedience is the true foundation of freedom. Good people break bad laws. This requires some courage. Solzhenitsyn stated in 1978 that the most notable feature of the West, this was in his Harvard lecture, I recall, was its lack of courage, and it's much worse now. If courage cannot be summoned, slavery or death await. This is a quote from Catherine Watt, and it will be important to remember this the next time the government imposes medical tyranny or other forms of tyranny, for example, climate. And it's linked to my previous points. We need to encourage public contempt for and civil disobedience to pandemic and biodefence fear-mongering and law. Publicly urge people not to believe anything the government, health and military authorities say about communicable diseases and their outbreaks. Don't submit to so-called diagnostic tests or participate in contact tracing and disease surveillance programs. Don't wear masks or go along with social distancing, isolation, quarantine. And of course, don't consume any products claimed to be preventives or treatments for the so-called physical reality are nor communicable. 5, have faith in God and yourself. Express courage. This is a time to speak out, not be cowed into silence, which is what the perpetrators want. Censorship is the tool used when the lie loses its power. Take control of your destiny, build the future that you want based upon faith, truth, love and justice. 6, join a real community of motivated, courageous, awake people with access to some land and good water. Aim for self-sufficiency, grow and eat nutritious food, get plenty of exercise and sunlight. Many of you here, I think, knew this well before me. I'm looking at Sharon Parker there. She's one of my mentors on this sort of thing. Minimise exposure to toxins, which includes most pharmaceuticals and, of course, all vaxxers. If possible, accumulate some silver and gold. Well, the price is going up there rather a lot lately. In conclusion, Mr. Chairman, you'll be glad to see I'm coming near the end here. The COVID pandemic was a hoax, but many people, especially in the West, fell for it. None of the so-called public health measures were based on truth. The proposed UN, WHO, One Health, IHR, ACDC provide the architecture for more tyranny whenever they wish, if people go along with it. Germ theory and its offshoot vaccination are spurious concepts unsupported by empirical evidence, but used as weapons of control by unelected global bodies and by governments. The true purpose of vaccination is to weaken the populace in order to enhance control. Do not accept, tolerate, and above all, comply with any further attempts to impose tyranny by the government in collaboration with the corporate media. I'll finish with 2 more quotes. I think the statement, or this statement from Mike Stone from Henry Mackow's site will resonate with many of you. It takes courage to face the truth about life. That's why ignorance is bliss. People hide. Is addressed to men in particular, or about men. They have beards. footy to watch, and girls to ogle on OnlyFans. I don't know anything about that. Why clutter their brains with thoughts of justice and truth? So crimes go unpunished, evildoers walk free, murderers are not held accountable for their crimes, and life goes on. Despite that, a handful of us, driven by a deep-seated desire to know the truth, soldier on. We continue to read, study, and amass damning evidence against some of the most despicable individuals to ever walk the face of the earth. Usually, our families and friends don't want to hear what we have to say. This notwithstanding, I usually like to finish on a stirring note, Mr. Chairman. You might have heard this one before. So here are the reflections of Tennyson's ageing Ulysses, especially meaningful for the older folk among us who are still up for the fight. Though much is taken, much abides. And though we are not that strength which in old days moved earth and heaven, that which we are, we are. One equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. So I probably went a bit over the 30.
No, that's all good, Rob.
Thank you.
Well, how was that? I thought that was brilliant. You know, this guy, he makes me laugh, he inspires me, and he tells the truth. And I could listen to him all day. Wasn't that a great rendition from Graham Lyons? Now, I have this guy, which I banged into about 4 years ago, and I'm still banging into him. A great friend of Edna's and mine and many people in the room is Mark Nugent. Please come to the stage, my boy. Now, I'll just read this a little bit. I want you to welcome Mark because he's a candidate who stands for what I call integrity. He stands for principle and he stands for genuine public service. Mark Nugent is standing in the Senate this year, next year, not the Senate, the Legislative Council. Sorry, I got it wrong. But I'll just say a couple of words after he finishes. Anyhow, his bio is this. He's standing for an independent candidate for the South Australian Legislative Council in the 226 state election. Mark is someone who has stepped forward because he believes South Australia deserves representatives who place people ahead of party politics. He is a conservative Christian, a committed family man, and someone deeply engaged with the issues that shape our state. Many of you will know Mark from his podcast work, South Australian Focus and Faith, Culture, Politics in Australia with Mark through these platforms. He has given a voice to the community concerns, has interviewed leaders and experts, and opened up honest conversations about the challenges facing everyday South Australians. His recent publication in The Spectator reflects his growing contribution to national debate and public policy. Mark also serves on the Australians for Better Government Committee, where he advocates for transparency, integrity and accountability across all levels of government. His policy platform reflects a strong commitment to limit traditional Australian values. Mark believes in empowering South Australia, expanding bureaucracy. He is committed to practical solutions to issues like ambulance ramping, strain, cost of living pressures, housing affordability, energy reliability, and the support for families and regional communities. As an independent, Mark is free. This is wonderful. I wish to hell every politician was free to speak their mind, but they're not. They're controlled. Went offline there, but that's what I feel. Vote. So he says he can vote with his conscience and represent the people directly. He is not bound by factional agendas or parties. He is standing to protect free speech, parental rights, privacy, and the dignity of every South Australian, while also advocating federally on issues that affect our state, such as immigration, taxation, national security, and federal overreach. Please welcome my friend and Edna's and yours, Mark Nugent-Barr. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And John always loves to pump up other people's tyres, as most of you know. I do want to say a massive thank you to Kim and Faye for organising these things as well, and John and Edna Tate for constantly being on the battle. I mean, I just wish in my late 80s that I could have as much energy and drive and passion and love for this nation and the Australian flag and the country that we have as these two people. I really take my hat off to both of you, and so it's my turn to pump up your tyres, brother. So yeah, big round of applause, massive round of applause, and obviously also a big thank you to Billboard Battalion team. Wade and the team travel around this nation trying to raise awareness. They don't have to. They could be just retired doing their own thing, right? A lot of us that have been in this fight could just be doing our own thing and getting on with life. But these guys aren't. They're actually coming and travelling around the nation to try and raise awareness about the overreach that's happening at all levels of society. Our councils, our state parliaments, our federal parliaments, they're all being controlled by international influences. And these people are out here trying to do what they can. I really think that we should have been doubling the numbers in this hall. But it just shows where we're at as a nation, is the apathy we have with the people. And this is why it's a real challenge, and I really resonated with what Tim was saying. And I've got notes as well, a bit like Graham. I tend to waffle and go off a bit, but so I'll try and stay to my notes. But, it's important. A lot of people have lost faith, and Tim's speech was really, really hit home a lot as well, especially for someone that's looking to go against the grain and get into the belly of the beast. Following up from what Tim was saying about the corruption within our government, to then come up here and say, I want you to put your faith in someone like me to try and change the beast from inside. And I get that, and I think it's really important for any political party or aspiring politician to take on board the concerns of people like Tim all around our country that have outlined the challenges within the Constitution and how it's been butchered and bastardised across many decades. Just a little bit about me. Obviously, Mark Neugebauer. I'm 54. I've been married for 26 years. I've got 3 adult children. I've got 2 bonus children, and I really resonated with Graham, and I'm glad that I had some amazing speakers go ahead of me, and it's a bit of a tough challenge to follow people like Graham and Tim and others. But it was good that Tim prepped you about the COVID situation. Myself, 5 years ago, I was very naive to the way the world operated. I was just getting on with life, raising my family, paying a mortgage, going to work, just doing my bit, so naive to everything that's going on. COVID changed that in a heartbeat. It really helped me understand that we do control our own destiny, but we've got influences that are trying to undermine that at every step of the way. Now, I chose not to participate in the vaccine and it cost me my job. I was in the disability sector as a team leader. I stepped down from that and went back into support work. And then the mandates come in November 2021 and I lost my job that I thought I was going to retire in. I felt like I wanted to make a difference in society by supporting people living with a disability. Well, the government stopped that because I chose not to participate in something that I didn't have any faith in. And then the next battle was in regards to the children in our care. As I mentioned, I'm a foster parent, and they were coming, the Department of Child Protection, under the auspice of SA Health, said that all kids in care should have access to and receive a COVID-19 vaccine. We've had 3 of the highest health bureaucrats in our nation tell us in a Senate estimates meeting that no young child was at risk from COVID-19. Yet as we've discovered, these things are far more dangerous than what they actually benefited people. So I dug my heels in, and my wife and I, we said no, and we pushed back on the department, which took a lot out because we're always constantly concerned about losing our children, kids that we've had since they were 0 days old, that we've chosen that we wanted to care for. We ended up going through the court only to find out that we had no standing. We were joined with the Australian Vaccination Risk Network. I managed to, in the end, through lawyers and legal interference, prevented the children in our care. But ultimately, there was many more children in care who ended up submitting because they were given gift vouchers and bribed to take something that they never really needed. And I feel sorry that I didn't do enough, it wasn't a loud enough voice to stop that even further. But we all have those stories. So that got me going in wanting to fight back. I didn't know how I was going to do it, lost my job, tried to run for federal election in 2022 as a very naive person with no real background in politics and never really wanted to or aspired to be a politician. I absolutely fully cooked with that and got nowhere. And I fully understand where Graham's whole story about so much I've learnt in the last 5 years in regards to all the influences over our life. But you know, today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about politics, and now following on from listening to Tim, some of you are probably wondering, well, there's, you know, what's the use? And I get it, but we need to continue to have conversations. So I'm not standing here before you as a politician or a party mouthpiece. I'm here as one of you, someone who loves this state and this country, someone who respects its Aboriginal heritage and every nationality that helped build the Australia we share today, including many who have shed their blood on foreign shoulder to shoulder for the freedom that shaped the great nation it is today. I'm also someone who is absolutely fed up with governments making irreversible decisions about our future without asking the people who actually live here and who it affects. So as a committee member of Australians for Better Government, Australians for Better Government exists to reform the Australian Constitution, ensure separation of powers, improve electoral integrity, enshrine personal freedoms, and promote direct democracy for the people. As a committee member of Australians for Better Government, I'll work with like-minded South Australians to achieve that mission. And Tim mentioned about the separations of power. That's a huge thing. And the book that he held up from Dr. Christopher Reynolds, I highly recommend that, is for people to read that. Separations of powers is a major factor that's prevented, that's created what the world we live in today and the Australia that we live in today. Many people wouldn't even know that the title of Prime Minister doesn't even exist in the Australian Constitution. The Legislative Council and the lower house is meant to be separate from the ministerial class and the judiciary. We don't have that. As Tim went through his speech, the Governor-General has power and meant to be above the elected officials. There must be a separation of powers for us to get back to some sort of normality, and we don't have that at the moment. That's why you have people like Scott Morrison during COVID awarded himself multiple ministerial positions. People remember that. So it's not just Labor, it's not just the Greens and that I push back on heaps because I don't believe in their ideology. It's the Liberal Party as well. And it's proven to me, as Graham's sort of pointed out, what I've learned is they're actually beholden to much greater powers than we, the people. We're meant to be the power. But they've given power away to international organisations. So they don't represent us, they represent them. And that's regarded, it doesn't matter if you've been a Liberal voter all your life, or Labor or Greens, whatever, they all represent the same people. It's an honour, obviously, to stand before you in a room full of people who are deeply about the direction of our state, people who've seen enough of the smoke and mirrors from Adelaide's Hall of Power to know when something's absolutely rotten. And Graham's pointed that out. I can see in many people's faces here frustration and exhaustion. People that have lost faith in our institutions. There's massive, deep-seated distrust. We've watched as governments, Labor and Liberal, it doesn't matter, promise the world and deliver red tape, endless inquiries and policies that feel like they're written by faceless bureaucrats in Canberra or some unelected think tank halfway across the world. Think World Economic Forum, think United Nations, all of those. And let's call it what it is, it's overreach. It's not imagined, we've lived it. The last 5 years have shown us, every single one in this room, I believe, has felt and understood it. It's not imagined. I don't care if they call us conspiracy theories, labels. Ambulance ramping, sorry, I lost my spot here. Let's call it what it is. Ambulance ramping in our state leaves loved ones waiting in agony. Housing shortages that price young families out of their own hometowns, energy bills that hit like sledgehammers because some net zero dream overrides practical reality. All systems bloated with control and starved of accountability. That's all we want. Accountability, transparency, honesty. When's the last time you've seen that out of a decent politician? Then consider the South Australian voice to Parliament. Rushed through after we were one of the highest voting states to say no to further division. Add to this the revised Emergency Management Act, which Angela's talked about, and Fairgo's got the bill out. I encourage anybody to sign that petition. It's an absolutely tyrannical overreach on that Emergency Management Act, but also a declared climate emergency. What was the last emergency they declared? A health emergency. What do they like to do with emergencies? They like to overreach. Both sitting on the shelf ready to be weaponised to restrict inalienable rights even further. On top of that, our own Premier, Peter Malinauskas, with Labor, leading the charge on an under-16 social media ban, a policy that puts the state above parents and lays the groundwork for digitally tracked future. These decisions aren't small. They show their roots. Labor's big government embrace, they want to hug you and be your parent. And unfortunately, 80% of people, unfortunately, and this is one of the things that worries me, they've got a mentality of govern me harder. Please give me more rules. Be my parent. I hate to say it, not in the enemy sense, but the people, the 80% are the people that we're working against as well, because they've put their belief in government, they've made government their God rather than our creator. The Liberals have wandered so far from their liberal conservative foundations, they may as well be Labor in blue ties. Divided on everything from immigration to energy, they've failed to stand up for South Australia. Not because they're incapable, although some probably are, but because the party machine demands conformity, not individual courage to speak out against tyranny. The machine that's fueled by millions of dollars of philanthropists. One that I've just been researching has jumped from the Liberal Party to the Labor Party. If you want to have a look at Pratt and wonder why he's backing $1 million each way with Labor and Liberal, it's all about money. It's no wonder trust is shattered. I can imagine people in pubs, or wherever, sitting around the coffee table at home, all sitting there going, why bother? They're all the same. And they're right. I don't dismiss the sentiment for a second. Your anger and frustration is justified, your scepticism is earned. That feeling of powerlessness, that slow creeping sense that your voice doesn't matter, that's the bureaucracy's greatest weapon. But today I want to talk about something radical, which is hope. Not the bumper sticker kind, not the election promise kind, the gritty, determined hope that comes from taking back what's yours. Because here's the truth. While the system is broken, it's not unbreakable. And while the legacy parties have lost their way, there are potential candidates, like me, as well as other independents and minor parties of like mind, stepping into the fray because we still believe in limited government, individual liberties, and the traditional Australian values that built this state and nation. Let me paint a picture drawn straight from the concerns keeping many people awake at night. Imagine a South Australia where bureaucracy doesn't strangle opportunity, where zoning laws aren't a maze that enriches developers while locking families out of the market, where we release state-held land for residential builds, cut the green tape that stalls projects in suburbs and regional corridors, and demand that Canberra tie immigration caps to our actual capacity. And let's not be called racists for that either. Not to abstract targets that push up rents and stretch services. It's not a fantasy, that's responsible stewardship, putting South Australians first. Or take our health crisis, ramping that has become a national embarrassment. Ambulances idle outside hospitals not because of lack of efforts from paramedics, but because beds are clogged by red tape and chronic health mismanagement. When's the last time you saw Spurrier on an ad that's not pushing a vaccine of some kind, talking about building natural immunity? I don't think I can ever see an ad that talks about ways that we can build our natural immunity. It's take this drug and take this jab and take this. We have a health crisis, and as Graham points out, it's probably been delivered in the way that they have wanted. As an independent, I'll challenge the government daily on health, push for a federal state inquiry into COVID mishandlings, which they want to run away from. Our fight for real medical freedom, where decisions belong between you and your doctor, not to bureaucrats with clipboards. And I'm wanting people to be more educated so they can talk to their doctor and not have your doctor dictate a script. It needs to be a holistic journey between the doctor, not dictated by our medical agencies that want to tell them how to be your doctor. And what about our energy? Our sky-high bills aren't accidents. They're the predictable result of pushing renewables without ensuring reliable baseload power backup. We've even blown ours up in this state. I'll advocate for a balanced, practical mix that delivers safe, affordable power without guilt trips, fear campaigns, catastrophising we hear about all the time, or manufacturing shutdowns Just energy that works. That's a nice little novel idea, isn't it? And this isn't about tearing everything down. Chaos isn't reform. It's about shifting power back to where it always should have been, cutting red tape for small businesses, trimming public sector waste to find real tax relief and job creation, protecting farmers from foreign buy-ups of prime land, and I'm really looking forward to hearing Wade talk in depth about what our farmers are facing. They're the backbone of our country. Defending free speech from government censorship. And I, like other like-minded candidates, would be your unfiltered voice in the Legislative Council here in this state, willing to collaborate when it benefits you, but never to compromise on our core freedoms. I'm about working with others to protect those. Which brings me to those who've checked out, and Tim's probably talked into this, the non-voters and the protest voters who form a silent army in this state. At our last election, about 1.2 million South Australians were enrolled. Turnout was around 85%, but dig deeper than this. Roughly 120,000 didn't show up. 120,000 people that are enrolled to vote didn't turn up at the last state election. And around 40,000 cast informal protest votes. That's nearly 160,000 South Australians, more than many electorates. Enough to reshape the entire Legislative Council if they actually mobilised and got out and voted for someone that's put their head above the parapet to look for real change. As I said, I get it why people are disenfranchised, but you can make a real difference. And by checking out, you do make a real difference. You've been told your vote is wasted. That's the lie they want you to believe. In the Legislative Council, every preference counts. A so-called wasted vote becomes the spark that elects independents like me, as well as other minor parties, or candidates from parties like Family First, One Nation, United Voice, Fair Go, and others who share similar values to my own. Because we are aligned on a lot more than what we're divided on. So I implore you, don't waste it. In 2026, after doing your research, you can put myself as a potential candidate and other genuine limited government candidates high on your ballot. We've already seen what a handful of determined crossbenchers can do. They can force inquiries, block bad laws, amplify the public voice, and together we can do more. Recall elections, citizen-initiated referenda to be talked about, bans on corporate donations, there's a lot of talk about that on at the moment, let alone travel awards, a debt ceiling, a real South Australian Bill of Rights, one that protects speech, privacy and worship from future governments who might be tempted to overreach. I'm not sure if there's any Green voters here, but I'm pretty sure they're pretty determined to take away many of those rights, particular freedom of religion. South Australians, you're not powerless, you're pivotal. The legacy parties have had their turn, they've overreached, underdelivered and lost your trust. They've certainly lost mine. But hope isn't gone. It's in your hands and, I guess, in potential candidates like me who are ready to fight for it. Never wanted to do this. I'm doing it for my grandchildren and my children. So, on a final note, I keep saying potential candidate because to get me registered as an independent, I still need more nominations from roughly 100 South Australians just to get on the ballot. If anything I've said today has resonated, please come and chat with me afterwards. It's a quick, simple, and it helps get a genuine independent voice onto the ballot paper to make a difference. And I've got some forms with me if people are interested. It takes 1 minute. This last bit is that remember the power belongs in your hands, individual voters, regardless of any party or independent, they might tell you, I want you to vote a certain way. Don't waste your vote. You own the vote. Any political party that tells you to vote a certain way after them, do your own research. Look at your candidates. Look what they stand for. If they stand for what you value and believe, then give them the tick. Give them the number on the ballot. Don't listen to others. Follow your gut, your heart. It's time to reclaim what's rightfully yours, which is government for the people, by the people, the way it's always meant to be. Thank you very much for listening, and God bless South Australia and God bless Australia.
Well, what a story Mark has given. Unbelievable. Can I ask you a question? Would you trust this man? Yes. Who wouldn't? Put your hand up. No. Yeah. Do it again. Who wouldn't trust him? Wouldn't.
They would not.
You would not trust him. Well, okay. Because you trust him, please sign the document. I've been helping Mark to try and get 250 signatures for he can actually stand. And how many are you behind?
I'm up to roughly the 250, but the Electoral Commission's more than likely going to bump some, and I want to go in there with a lot more, so that's why I'm saying another 100.
So, okay, I don't believe in mandates, but I'm calling one. I'm mandating everyone sign this. But, all right, give him a clap. You believe in mandates? Also, Angela Rowe, just down the bottom there, please sign for Angela too, and anyone else.
Names and details of people who might want to be on a telephone tree or whatever, so that we can
Right.
council
And support Tim, and buy something. Belinda, stand up. Come on, you look nice. Go and see Belinda and buy something off Farmer Wade, a billboard battalion. Now, I'm giving one more mandate. Farmer Wade's going to be speaking shortly, and if anyone doesn't come back, we'll lock you up. So, what's the time? Just before. No, I'm not going to. I've already written out Mark's policies, but I don't need you because you made a promise that you'll sign him up. Now, what's the time? 25 past. No, I reckon we'll only give you 25 minutes. We'll come back at 10:02. Just before you go though, 10:02. There's toilets. Go and have something to eat. The barbecue is still on. Now, I was told not to do this, but because these people helped me, if you want a coffee, it's only 300 metres down there and cake, but I'd rather you stay here and buy the barbecues. But anyhow, we're going to be back.